Hi, I'm Jeff Ray, your host for Economic Outlook. Welcome to our show. We're back in the studio today for another great discussion. We hope you'll make plans each week to join us as we discuss the region's most important economic development initiatives with a panel of experts. Power companies are looking to decommission dirty, less efficient coal-fired plants. In their place, state-of-the-art natural gas-powered facilities are being built to provide more reliable, affordable, and cleaner solutions to support our growing energy needs. We'll take a closer look at one of those projects, the new Indec Niles Energy Center, and talk about what it means for the community coming up on Economic Outlook. The Indec Niles Energy Center recently celebrated the completion of its construction and the beginning of production. The plant will now generate 1,000 megawatts of energy, enough to power 635,000 homes and businesses through the use of clean natural gas and state-of-the-art technologies. This project is one that was 20 plus years in the making. On our show today, we'll learn more about the project from Rick Huff, the city manager of Niles, Michigan, and later we'll welcome Kevin Beavers, the plant manager of Indec Niles Clean Energy Center. Rick, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, so exciting project. When I think about this, largest single investment ever in our region on a single project, and so we're pretty excited about this. You've been in the middle of this for many years. Let's go back in time a little bit though, and let's talk about just the property. So historically, before the power plant, what was this property used for?
So this property was originally the regional rail center for really all of Michiana area, established in about 1850. And as you can kind of imagine, back then some of the environmental concerns weren't quite as strict as they are today. And so there were a lot of challenges with this piece of property, but for this type of project, it's all about location, and this one fits.
Yeah. So the property, it stopped being the regional rail center. It sat empty for many years. It had environmental contamination. Walk through sort of what it looked like prior to Indec becoming involved.
Yeah, it is really a sat vacant since about the 1950s.
Oh, wow.
And unused. Really no prospects for using it, simply because of the amount of money it would have taken to remediate some of the environmental concerns.
Yeah. So fast forward a little bit, begin the conversation about trying to figure out how to reuse a piece like this. Why is the piece of property attractive for a use like what Indec is doing there?
Yeah, it's really kind of a perfect combination of energy distribution, high voltage lines that were very near this location, and natural gas availability. So this property basically intersects with trans-state energy distribution and trans-state natural gas pipelines.
So the sat empty for a while. The city starts thinking about this. They didn't just start thinking about this. Obviously, we celebrated just a few weeks ago the beginning of production. Talk a little bit about how long the city has been working on trying to put this site into productive use.
Right. So this particular project started in 2000. So we're pushing 22 years of getting this project up and running. All kinds of hurdles along the way. It wasn't too long after 2000 that we had the Enron situation where natural gas prices just kind of went crazy and energy sector went crazy. And that really threw the brakes on this project. And then there's just always something, one thing after another. But finally it came together.
Yeah, so it's interesting to think about the perseverance or even changes in leadership, a lot of different people involved. It really took, sounds like an army of people in Niles to sort of help get it to the point where an Indec was ready to redevelop.
Right, yeah, it was the right combination of people at the city and at Indec.
Yeah.
Right.
So Indec then identifies this as a site. They're going to build this. They're going to produce power. Going to sell it into the grid. We mentioned it's going to help sell to 635,000 homes and businesses. Talk a little bit about this construction period. So over the last 2 years, this construction period's been happening. Talk a little bit about the impact of that on the community.
Yeah. Again, you got thrown another curveball in the middle of all this with the pandemic hitting, and supply line issues, personnel issues, all of the things that come together. But there were really awesome managers involved in this project that just really kept it online. It was a little scary there for a while, kind of wondering what the effect would be. During construction, at the peak of construction, there was about 700 workers on site. They used easily 90+% of local labor. All the labor came from the greater Michiana area. And they tried to source as much of the product as they could from the local Michiana area.
Great, and we're going to touch on in our field shoot briefly about some of that local labor. Obviously, a real testament to our area to have the labor force here to help build some of that. So tell us, let's go back about a month or so ago. INDEC is celebrating the completion and the beginning of this. Talk a little bit about that. Moving to that milestone and the celebration that happened to signify the beginning of production.
Yeah, I mean it's exciting.
Yeah.
We have roughly 1.2, 1.3 billion dollar investment in a community of 12,000 people. So we're quite proud of that investment in our community. We're proud that they took on the challenge of remediating this brownfield site rather than building on a greenfield.
Right.
They could have just as easily gone a mile away and built on a greenfield and took up new farmland and all of those things for this project, but they took on the challenge of making this work for our community. So it's just incredibly exciting to be involved in it.
It is, and I had a chance to meet many of those officials from around the world who came to Niles, Michigan. So talk about what this does for future economic development projects. The fact that several global companies and U.S. investors have come together to make it. How does that help Niles in the future with other projects?
Well, directly. One of the things that was negotiated into the development agreement was that INDEC Niles would contribute to a brownfield fund for the city of Niles to help spur new development in the community. So over the period of about the next 26 years, that fund will grow to a little over $1 million, which we've never had those kinds of resources to help new businesses get up and running. So that's kind of our direct effect. But as you mentioned, people from around the world came to this opening and were involved in this project. And it was interesting to hear them talk about how this project spurred their interest in Michigan and what the possibilities were for additional investment in Michigan.
Great, and it's interesting looking at a time, even a new report out this week, Michigan's business tax climate, one of the top in the country, ranked 12th, I think now, right. Currently trending upwards in almost all categories there. So love that foreign investment is finding this region as a great opportunity. Talk for a second about other potential impacts. So congrats on the brownfield thing. Unfortunately in recent years the history seems to be people walking away from it, not wanting to develop for fear of it being complicated, and or leaving something else for you to be behind. So congrats on that. Other impacts. So taxpayer, employer, some of those kind of things.
Yeah. So this is a pretty high-tech automated plant. So they're really going to have about 21, 22 employees, full-time employees on the plant site. So it's not a major employer for the region, but it is a pretty major tax base for the region. We, as part of their development plan, we planned out about 27 years in their development plan. And for the greater region, that's about $75 million in new tax revenue that didn't exist. About 24 million of that's the city of Niles. Okay. So it's all new revenue and things that we can use. Michigan has a very unique revenue system for municipalities, so this is a really big deal for us.
Right. So Rick, people have watched this for 20 plus, actually probably 70 years, from the time it closed maybe till now, something productive happened. What's been the sentiment in the community about both about maybe the project and about INDEC and sort of the role they're playing in the community now?
Yeah, I find it kind of interesting that we haven't received a lot of real direct feedback on the plant. And I attribute that mostly to the development of the plant. It was done in a very professional way. It was done in our industrial park proper. And it seems to fit in really quite well.
Right, it sure is. So no, it's been great to see, and we had a chance to show our viewers in the show today a little bit about just sort of this complicated project that's ended up here in Niles, Michigan, so appreciate that. So right. He's Rick Huff. He is the city manager, City of Niles, Michigan. Rick, thanks for being with us today. Congratulations on a fantastic project, and we look forward to having you back again in the future.
Great, thank you for the invitation.
Okay. All right, so we've wrapped up our piece in here. I'm going to send it out to George Lepiniotis. George is out in the field to talk a little bit more about developing that workforce to build the INDEC site. George, let me toss it to you.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm having fun playing with all the cool toys out at the Apprentice Training Center of the IBEW Local 153. I'm joined by Michael Lita, the business manager. Michael, thanks for being with me.
You're welcome. Thank you
Michael,
for coming.
we stand in one of the many classrooms here at the Apprentice Training Center and are surrounded by some very cool toys and I call them toys, but really they're training methods and training techniques and training systems and stations that help your young apprentices learn the trade.
That is correct.
All right. But before we get to more about this facility, I want to talk a little bit about you.
Okay.
You are a long-term member of the IBEW.
Over 35 years.
Over 35 years.
I'll admit to that. Yes.
Yeah, and you were actually trained here at Local 153, and you
I
spent
wa-
your whole career here.
That is correct.
How long have you been with Local 153?
I started in 1987.
And were you actually trained as part of that apprentice training program?
Yes, I was.
Here in this facility?
Not in this facility.
Where was your training facility?
We were on a little building on Twickenham Road.
Before we went on air, you said that building was probably more like a broom closet for
That
this
is correct.
facility.
Oh, yeah, this is night and day, hands down.
Let's talk about this facility. I mean, it is incredibly impressive, both from its physical abilities, right, and everything that's contained in here, from classrooms to electrical centers and examples of what these people are learning on, motors, et cetera, but also in the program that it sponsors.
Correct.
A young man or woman coming in here wanting to become an electrician, what does that process look like?
It is a process, you are correct, because they have to fill out an application, and once that application is filled out, they have to prove a high school transcript or GED. But part of that transcript or GED, you have to have algebra passed. So that's why we go to the schools and we really emphasize that, the learning. And then once that process is done, they get set up for a testing. We have a required basic math and reading requirements. Through that testing, the next set of group, you go through the interviews, and through the interview process, you're scored. And then based on how you do on an interview is how we bring you into the apprenticeship.
And you told me before we went on air, you have more applicants than you're able to take.
Yes, because this facility, as big as it is, we're full.
Okay, all right. And so it is a competitive process.
Yes.
Okay. And so a young man or woman in high school looking to become an electrician, thinking about becoming an electrician, sounds like focus on math is a pretty good idea.
That is correct.
So as they are accepted, those lucky ones that get accepted into the program, what do they go through and what is their ultimate reward or certification they get on the far side of the program?
All right, so what they go through is, so what we do is we start everybody out with a basic math course again, just to refresh everybody on your math. And then we also teach them about how to balance their monies. Because as an apprentice, you might not be making as much as you did when you become an apprentice. And in long term, sometimes we're pretty busy right now, but we've been around long enough that sometimes work can slow down.
Sure.
So we teach them how to handle their money, and then they go through a 5-year school process, depending on the program they take, 3 to 5 years. And that school is, it's a rigorous program. You go 2 nights a week, 4 hours a day, and then you work 40 hours or sometimes more during the week. And in the meantime, you got to study 6 to 8 hours.
So it's over full time.
It's over full time, correct.
And so they are, while they're doing their schooling both here, well, all here at the Apprentice
Correct.
Training Center, they're also out in the field working as a working apprentice electrician 40 hours a week.
Correct.
And who do you partner with to find them or help them find these opportunities for the 40-hour-a-week requirement?
We partner with Electrical Contractors Association, NECA, and electrical contractors in the area. So they sponsor. We're kind of unique. We got the people that run the building are the IBEW and electrical contractors from NECA. They have a committee here, and they oversee the apprenticeship. And so that point of the training, the amount of class work and all that is directed through that apprenticeship that works together, training.
And your area that you cover includes north central Indiana,
Right.
St. Joe County, Elkhart County.
Kosciuszko County, Marshall County.
Got it. And then it extends north past the state line into Berrien and Cass County.
Yes.
So you do cover 2 states.
Yes.
And you cover 3 power generating facilities.
Yes.
Matter of fact, before we went on air, we talked about how Local 153 workers built the Cook Nuclear Plant.
Yes.
And recently, that Jeff's talking more about in our studio, they built a plant in Niles. Can you tell us about that project?
Yeah, that was kind of, those are unique projects because they don't always come around all the time, right?
Sure.
And our guys actually get excited. It's a real heavy industrial project. At one time, I believe they had over 800 workers on there. Now, not 800 electricians, mind you, but 800 workers on that site. We peaked out at about 150 electricians out there that worked over a little over 2.5 years. So that's it's kind of a long project. So proud of it. They did a heck of a job out there. It's producing power, you know. So those are, and the unique thing about it, I don't know if Jeff had a chance to tell you, but 0 recorded injuries where anybody lost time of work.
Well, that's awesome.
Just beyond awesome. So that was for that longer project and that many guys.
Well, that really does bring me back to a point we discussed earlier, and that is the importance of the training and the place of the union in bringing along a young electrician and making them more experienced. I mean, stuff's very complicated, isn't it?
It takes a while to learn, correct? Yeah. You know, but we put you in classroom and we want you to succeed. So we will do whatever it takes. If there's somebody that's not quite comfortable with what they're learning, we got other things to, we have extra study hall classes and we do extra, you know, group sessions together. So we want to make sure you understand what you're learning so you can move forward.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you showing us around and taking the time today.
Oh, thank you very much.
Jeff, back to you in the studio where you are talking more about the development of the power plant and the importance of the IBEW and Local 153 and its workers in making that place a reality.
George, thank you for the inside look. Appreciate the chance to hear a little bit more about the workforce that helped build the Indec plant. We're shifting our conversation now to Kevin Beavers. Kevin is the plant manager at the Indec plant, power plant in Niles. Kevin, thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
So somebody who's not familiar with Indec and sort of the project you've done in Niles, give us a high level, like what happens at this site?
Well, so development is a very complex and complicated part of how a power plant gets built, right? So this one went on for almost 20 years here in Niles, and we're thankful that the project has continued to move forward. You know, it started out as a development dream. We know the area needs power. You know, there are coal plants being shut down. There are nuclear plants being shut down. What replaces, you know, these big power plants? And so for us, we believe that natural gas is one of the big methods that can do this. And the things that we look at are what society wants, right? We want things that don't use a lot of water. We want things that have low emissions. We want things that don't you know, show up in my kitchen window. And things like that, and we feel very strongly that the natural gas power plants are one of the things that fill that perspective, right? So you know, the things that have taken place since this plant has been built is pretty sizable. You know, so since the plant was commissioned, we have run just about every hour since the plant was built, which is probably one of the biggest things that tell us that we have the right project in the right place, operating at the right time.
Great. So Kevin, let me ask you. So you take natural gas and you generate power, and then what do you do with this power?
So the power, once it goes through the 2 primary gas turbines, we then recover the heat off of both of those machines and use it to generate steam, which generates even more power. So an additional third of the power produced is from this waste heat.
Great. And so this power then gets sent where? Does it come to my house?
Well, it's complicated.
Yes.
So the short answer is probably yes. But it is because we sell into a grid, it is like pouring water in the top of a bucket.
No, I appreciate it. So you're really powering houses and companies, businesses, really all over the Midwest as you help plug this grid. And obviously, we watch on the news. There's a lot of attention to power, and as you mentioned, this is a cleaner, better for the environment job. Let's spend a few minutes, Kevin. I'm more curious about your experience a little bit. So, how does Kevin Beavers get interested in going into this line of work?
Well, I started my mechanical career in the military. So I was a mechanic in the Army, and when I got out of the Army, I started working at a power plant at the bottom level, and I have done a fair bit of commissioning throughout my career. I've been doing this coming up on 38 years now.
Great.
And,
So Kevin, I want to build on that, Kevin, a little bit. So talk a little bit about maybe the skill set, either like you brought to the table, or the skill set you're looking for in people that are going to ultimately work at a place like this.
well, I'm going to touch on it in two ways. So one is how I advanced, and then also the people that we've hired out here for this project. So for me, and I think it's a common attribute, is being willing to, use some basic mechanical skills and then running with it. Being willing to do what other people aren't willing to do, and things like that. When we started staffing Indec Niles, we followed a lot of the same mechanisms. So we have a mix of personnel. Some are natural gas power plants. We have nuclear plant operators. We have people from petrochemical refining, also locals to the area, and we've got probably half of our management team was previously working in consulting. So it's not the natural gas side that is most important. It is the desire and the background that you can do anything.
Great.
Right.
No, we're excited about the investment. Kevin, let's shift for a second. Recently, we hosted and I had a chance to be with you out on site as many of the investors came from around the world to celebrate the completion. Talk a little bit about why foreign investment is why this is so attractive to folks, not only a U.S. company, but also the foreign investors.
I think for the foreign investors, they're really focused on us because in a lot of ways, this is one of the most robust markets in the world. The capability to make money in the U.S. and the laws that allow these investors to come in. It's probably one of the big drivers. We two of our primary investors are Korean. They are looking to expand their role in the world. They've got money to invest, and where else to invest it better than the U.S.
Right. So yeah, and so Kevin, I think of this at a time when when in all communities we're worried about having the power need. There's a ton of conversation right now about electric and whether it be cars or all of it. So it seems like the need will, or the demand will grow. Talk a little bit about sort of how your project helps meet that growing demand for power.
Well, this is one of the things that has carried me throughout my career, is that regardless of what the technology of the day is, there's always going to be a need for power. And so whether that is, sending power to your house or to your electric vehicle charging station, or anything like that. The one thing that has remained consistent is that power is needed by everybody. And I think some of the changes that we've seen, we've still got local utilities, but even broader, I think we have a very open market that covers a very wide area. And so we don't have to find a customer anymore, or things like that. We can sell directly into the market.
Great. He's Kevin Beavers. He's the plant manager at the new Indec power plant out in Niles. Kevin, thank you, one, for allowing us to be out on site and see the project as it's happening, but also, two, thank you for your leadership and bringing a great project. I was excited to see your celebration, and thanks for the opportunity to share it today. Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Rick, for joining us today. That's it for our show today. Thank you for watching on WNIT or listening to our podcast. To watch this episode again or any of our past episodes, you can find Economic Outlook at WNIT.org or find our podcast on most major podcast platforms. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Please join us next week as we continue to cover the region's most exciting and important topics that affect you. I'm Jeff Ray. I'll see you next time.
This WNIT local production has been made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.